Hey, Harry, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. It's a delight to be here.
This will be rapid fire because we stand between lunch. So.
Okay, here we go.
So give us a very quick update on Hydro One, transmission and distribution company, but talk about your customer base and where you're at.
Sure. So we're a fairly simple company to understand. We are in one jurisdiction, the province of Ontario, largest province in Canada in terms of population, 40% of the population, 40% of the GDP, diversified economy. We've got everything from heavy industry between steel manufacturing, automobile parts manufacturing and assembly, right through technology, financial services, and agriculture. So a full spectrum, diversified economy. Had a lot of growth, economic growth and population growth over the last number of years. Those are expected to continue. And as a result, we as an electric utility, as you mentioned, are in two businesses essentially, distribution and transmission. We are the transmitter of Ontario. We own all of or a stake in every transmission line in the province except for one. And we're the largest distribution company, local distribution company in terms of wood poles and wires to homes and small commercial and industrial businesses. As I was saying, we have about 1.5 million wood poles. We also have about 1.5 million customers. Our customer base on the distribution side is primarily rural. We're not in the major urban centers. Ontario is the home of hydroelectricity, hence the name Hydro One. 25% of our power is from hydroelectric sources, primarily rivers and dams. 50% is nuclear. 16% is natural gas, and the rest is renewable. There's no oil, there's no coal. And the goal of the province is to get to full green energy, of which nuclear is a part, by 2050.
And Ontario is seeing pretty strong power demand growth. Can you talk about that?
Yes, it's interesting. I haven't been with Hydro One that long, so I had a vision of or an image of utilities, electric utilities being slow to no growth, very bureaucratic, et cetera. It's anything but. That may have been true, but we are seeing unprecedented levels of growth that we've already realized. And as we look ahead, the system planner for Ontario estimates that electricity consumption will increase 75% between this year and 2050. So on a straight line basis, that's about a 3% CAGR for 25 years. Now, by tech standards, that's not that great, but by utility standards, that's rapid. And what we need to do is invest to enable that, and at the same time, ensure we're investing to improve the resiliency of our grid.
Now, to be able to do any of that, you need money, and you're on a mission here. Tell us about your.
I'm on a mission. So, as you say, we've been lucky as a public company. We went public in 2015. We've been able to fund all of our expenditures and operations from funds from operations and borrowings. We're an A-rated utility, very proud of that. But as we look ahead, the accelerating pace of investment is going to require more debt, but also some equity. On the debt side, we've been exclusively Canadian. We've always issued bonds in Canada. We, in August, filed a shelf prospectus to issue here in the United States, and we intend to have an inaugural issue within the first 6 months of next year, and that becomes an annual occurrence, just to diversify our investor base.
What could that inaugural issuance look like in terms of total amount and any terms, tenors?
Well, that's a great question. So we haven't landed on it, and we're talking with investors now to get a sense, since we're not known here. In Canada, we do everything from 5s, 7s, 10s, and 30s. Here, for an inaugural issue, for a new issuer, it feels like a 10-year tenor is probably the right one. We want it to be sizable enough to be interesting to investors, so anywhere from $500 million to $1 billion to make it meaningful for folks. We don't want to overshoot. At the same time, we don't want to undershoot and leave too many people wanting too much more. So there'll be a lot more to come as we get ready for this and start conducting some of the marketing in the new year.
So a lot has changed in the last couple of weeks. The U.S. government is shut down. How does that affect your perspective? Like just that and looking at the U.S. overall?
There's a lot of headlines that come across the border, et cetera, et cetera. I think we're taking the medium and long-term view. There's lots of issues in both countries, but we're investing for the medium and long term. Our outlook is there, and we think the government will find a way to start up again. The parties will come together, come up with something. It doesn't really interfere with our business. in any way. We're happy to export. We do export a fair bit of electricity. In terms of funding, we don't see any anomalies developing in the market. We have to be commercial, so if something changes in such a way that it's uneconomic or disadvantageous for us to issue here, then we'll hold and wait till the conditions change. We don't have a natural use for US dollars since we're in one geography, so we have to swap it back, and we just have to make sure that the swapped rate, all-in rate, is competitive for us, because we have to look after our customers, our ratepayers, to ensure we're not doing anything that's imprudent or driving costs up, which will drive rates up.
In Canada, I believe Hydro One is the largest issuer of green bonds. Is that something you're looking for in the U.S., or is it just like regular, like green is not?
There's no premium, if you will, or greenium, if you will, for that. So we're certainly proud of our sustainability record and our environmental focus. But it doesn't have to be labeled a green bond, and we don't think that'll yield anything more for us. If investors are interested in that, we're happy to try to meet them, because we have a terrific sustainable financing framework, award-winning sustainable financing framework. But our initial issue, probably not issued under that.
And you mentioned a lot of demand growth. Will this be used to fund that, or what's the plan?
Yes, so we have organic growth, population growth, economic growth that just continues along in the distribution business, but our transmission business is the real needy business from a incremental capital point of view. We have 9 more transmission lines to build between now and 2032, and we expect to win or be designated as the designer and constructor of more lines to support the nuclear build-out that is happening, and I think was discussed earlier this morning. We have to enable all that electricity gets transmitted and distributed to the homes and businesses in Ontario.
Now that sounds like a lot of transmission building in a short time. In the US, it can take 10, 17, 20 years to build a long-haul line. How are you finding success?
We are, thankfully, we don't have those durations. So we're confident that these 9 lines that we've already been approved and designated are in various states. They'll all be done by 2032, 2033 at the end. Part of the reason we've been able to do things fairly quickly by transmission standards is our First Nations partnership. So in Canada, we have a focus as a country for economic and social reconciliation with the First Nations in our lands. All of our transmission lines will cross some, if not exclusively, First Nations lands. So we have a 50-50 partnership model where we work with the nations and give them the right to purchase up to 50 or 49.99% of a transmission line that runs across their lands, and also to procure services and goods from Indigenous-owned businesses, either in the construction or the maintenance of the lands. And what we found is by partnering with them, and we don't wait till the line is being prepared. We start months early, or years early. We know where the next lines will be. Building relationships, establishing relationships in the community, investing in the communities so that they become our partners. And often in, at least in Canada, transmission line regulation, the regulatory and approval process take a while because for First Nations are opponents. Either the land rights haven't been negotiated, there's sacred burial grounds that need to be rooted. When you're a partner with them, you work with them, they become your proponent as opposed to opponent, and they make things happen. And so we've been able to accelerate approval processes, actual construction processes, and energization so that they can participate in the upside.
What kind of timelines are you talking about when you say accelerate? Is this something done within like X number of years and it took 5 or 10 years before?
Yes, so you were saying 10 to 15 years, so we're at anywhere from 2 to 3 years to 4, depending on the length of the line, the complexity of it. But the work starts before the construction starts. So from absolute beginning to end is anywhere from 5 to, say, 8 years at the outside.
Are there any lessons learned in interacting with First Nations, or how early you get them involved?
You're never early enough, number one, to understand every nation has some uniqueness to it, and so understanding what's important for them and their nation in terms of economic reconciliation and what is literally and truly sacred versus not, but enabling them to invest and participate and be part of the process is an absolute winner. And we know this based on our record of working with them and hearing from them. But in addition, the lines that we've been awarded, either in a competitive process or in a designation, often we see the partnership that has been established is one of the deciding factors.
So they take a 50% equity ownership, right? Can you talk a little bit about when they come in and how that works?
Yeah, so it's, for us, we take a lot of risk up front. So we take all the construction risk, and we work with our EPC contractors, engineers, et cetera, do all the design, the development, and the First Nations partners, but we don't look for them to invest until the line is constructed. The rate application has gone in and been approved. And from the moment the electricity is flowing up until a year after that, they have the right but not the obligation to buy from us equity in the line. It doesn't cover the stations at either end. It's the cables, the wires, the poles, transformers, insulators, conductors, et cetera, all that. We keep, just because there's other assets coming into those stations, it gets very complicated that way.
And then are you helping them with the financings on that end, or do you have a role?
We do have a role. So Kevin Dickinson, our assistant treasurer, is here. He and his team are integral to ensuring they have availability of financing. We don't guarantee it, but we'll do everything we can to make introductions, ensure there's multiple sources of funds. Some nations have the cash on their own, a lot don't. This is a great investment for them because right now there are, and for the foreseeable future, there's both provincial and federal loan guarantee programs. So the nations effectively borrow at the rate of the Government of Ontario, the Government of Canada. So that's in the fours. They're earning 9.2%. On these. So it's a great return, but we don't guarantee it. We don't want to take that liability on our books.
Now I have to ask about data centers because I'm in the US, so that's all I write about. What are you seeing? Are they knocking on your door, or is that mainly they're going to the generators and you're just hooking up the generators?
Well, they're knocking on the door. It isn't as dramatic as some of the headlines here, here being in the United States around what data centers are doing, et cetera. We have about 10 gigawatts of applications in process, but those same applicants are also talking in Alberta, they're talking in Virginia, they're looking to source different things. So for us, we see it as an opportunity. It isn't that dramatic. They tend to co-locate or locate very close to generation, so it's a bigger opportunity for the generators to get some base load and amortize some costs. We're happy to support in any way. Our one caveat is we want to make sure that geography is considered. Southwestern Ontario, from Toronto through to Windsor, Detroit area, highly congested, needs more power brought in. The last thing we need is another data center in Southwestern Ontario, because that'll just create more problems in the grid.
Do data centers have to register with you to come online? Like, how does that work? There's different processes in the U.S.
Yes, they don't have to register, but we're involved. So when they make a proposal and it put in a formal application, we are one of the parties to the work to ensure the solution is designed as effectively as possible before it's approved.
Now, all this new demand growth is coming at a time when we're seeing grids across North America facing greater stress from extreme weather. How are you bolstering reliability, whether it's extreme winter storms, or are you seeing wildfire risks?
Thankfully, we're not seeing wildfire risks. So the province of Ontario is rated either low, very low, or negligible in terms of wildfire risk. Having said that, there's not none. It just, they're not anywhere close to any significant assets or, thankfully in most cases, population centers. This year, we're actually over where we were last year, but below the 10-year average in fires, and we've had no real loss. For us, the natural disaster that we worry more about is wind and ice. And we did have what we called a generational ice storm roll through March 28th of this year that took a huge swath of our assets out of service and our customers out of power for as long as 3.5 weeks. I mean, it was catastrophic. That's something that we have normal storm restoration. That was extraordinary, and so we file a Z-factor application for extraordinary relief. That has been filed, and we can hopefully get that approved. That'll be put in our rate base, and we don't have to defer others. So to answer your question, it's wind and ice more than wildfires. We monitor it. We do lots of things to ensure, from a forestry and vegetation management, we keep our assets as least as less as low risk as possible, but they're always going to be there because we can't do everything to absolutely prevent it. And undergrounding is not going to work. Too much Canadian shield that you're just not going to put everything underground.
On that note, thank you so much, Harry. Really appreciate your
You're
time,
welcome.
and it's time for lunch.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.